And it appears that we are live. I have to apologize that I'm doing this so late. I tried to make shot a little bit more relaxing. I didn't schedule too many appointments. Then everybody who I did not schedule appointments with ended up scheduling them with me. So the shot show is extraordinarily busy. Fortunately, unfortunately, you can look at it both ways. I am enjoying it. There's stuff to see. There's people to see, which I probably enjoy the most. But in the end, I only get back to the house that I rented a house while I'm here quite late. So it is midnight on the East Coast, 9 o'clock on the West Coast, and in between, in between. There's quite a lot to cover, and it's going to be in a relatively haphazard uh, way. I think there are a couple of people already here. I have not tried live streaming from this house, so I want to know if the internet connection is fast enough and that you guys can hear me reasonably well. I think there are a couple of people here. If you can hear me, if the microphone is working all right, if the video quality is okay, please put something in the chat box and tell me that everything is coming through all right, and we will get started. First of all, if you were paying attention to my earlier posts, Mr. Alpine is here. Looks good. You can hear me well. Excellent. Very good. So I have a couple of people locals. Somebody on YouTube is popping in. That's good. So you guys kind of have a choice here. The way my schedule worked out is I first drove up to Arizona. I shot in my first. Excellent. So YouTube guys can hear me. That's good. I shot my first NRL Hunter match, which was a very interesting experience. It was about as miserable in terms of the results and stuff as you could imagine. But I went and immediately signed up for another match in the beginning of April. So as you can imagine, I had an absolute blast. But honestly, given that this is shot show coverage, what I was thinking of doing is mostly skipping the conversation about the NRL Hunter, at least this particular match. And I have nothing bad to say about it. It was spectacular. Well, other than my shooting, everything else was spectacular. I thought I'd skip the coverage of NRL Hunter for the time being. I will talk about that after I get home and focus a little bit more on shot show related things. Hope that's all right with you. Naturally, I'll field whatever questions you got. I got into Las Vegas Sunday night. Monday was the industry day at the range, which is where you go and shoot stuff. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday were the regular days of roaming around shot show floor, looking at products, talking to people. We're all exhausted. Everybody's voice is failing. So I'll do my best to maintain my ability to talk for a little bit. And we will go from there. I took some pictures here and there. So my preference, what I'm probably going to do, I'm going to pull up, pictures on my phone. And in principle, I could share them through the iCloud and put it on the screen. Let's see, but a lot of them are kind of haphazard a little bit, so I don't know if it's really all that worthwhile. Maybe better for me to just kind of glance at pictures and talk about it for now. If something is truly worthwhile, I'll find it and I'll put it up. Well, actually, this one is worthwhile. Let me see if I can find this picture and put it up, and we'll go from there. So starting at the industry data range, I didn't take a huge number of pictures. I didn't see a huge number of things, although a relatively significant number of things. I basically figured, I can't cover everything anyway. I'm not going to be the first one to bring you news anyway. So might as well do my usual. Okay, Mr. Rothman is going to sleep. Good night, sir. I'm going to do my usual thing and assume that you're here for the commentary, not because I'm the first to do anything, which is probably a reasonable assumption. Okay, here we go. So, one of the first things I saw, what the hell? I'm trying to share my screen and it's not cooperating. Okay. Library iCloud. Okay, there we go. You should be able to see it now. So this new Glock CU, whatever, Glock aimpoint, COA, excuse me, aimpoint red dot sight with a new cut for Glock. I shot with it, and gilded colors let you touch the new scope. Yes, they did. I'll talk about that in a moment. So I shot with the several different Glocks. This is a small one. This is a 43. That was interesting because that's the gun I normally carry. I also shot the full size. I kind of like this little new red dot. It fits well looking at how the slide cut is done. It's done very intelligently. It sits low, the side is nice and compact, collimation quality is good. As is my usual gripe, it's a 3 MOA dot. There's no real good reason to keep the dot that small. I would have much preferred a 6 or 8 MOA dot. But even as is, it's a nice looking sight, a good sight picture, not a ton of tint. All the edges are smoothed out. I liked it. I liked it a fair bit. And the sight is compact enough, obviously, as you can see, to be able to put it on a significant variety of guns. So that was pretty cool. Am I gonna rush out and buy one? Well, probably not. I have a lot of options, but I'd like to see how well this slide cut does, because from the standpoint of robust red dot mounting, it has a lot going for it, and I had a chance to look at it quite carefully. Let's see what if I'm gonna. I'll cycle through some stuff. Some new suppressors. Okay. It was kind of cool to see the grip from Die Free Company at this booth. One of my favorites, AR-15 grips. Lots of shooting. There we go. So one of the things that I really enjoyed at the range day was looking at that particular scope. That is in Wolford. Honestly, I think the biggest deal with this dot is the Glock LE price is supposed to be sub 1,000 for the package. That's maybe. I don't know what the LE price is. Quite possible. The fact that Aimpoint and Glock are cooperating is going to give this site a lot of marketing power. Gil, do you have an opinion on co-witness pistol red dots? Yes. If you're mounting a red dot on a pistol, you should be co-witnessing iron sights. Wrote quite a few articles about it, talked about it extensively. Going back to what's in the picture, so the scope that's on the picture is a new Schmidt & Bender Meta 3-18 by 42, and this time around it is a front focal plane design. I knew it was coming, but this is the first time I see it in real life. They have it here on a rifle from Detroit Gunworks. Rather nice gun. This particular one is a 308. That's what we were able to shoot there. I think it's an Aerotech mount. Optically, the scope, well, just like the second focal plane Meta, is very, very nice. The field of view is still restricted for the US market because of Swarovski's idiotic patent. That's screwing things up for everyone. I was aware of what reticle we were going to see, as you may imagine. If you've seen reticle designs I talk about, this will not look hugely unfamiliar. It is a relatively sparse tree, and the way it works, there's small hashes in the middle are zero point 0.2 milliradians, so you can have small corrections. And then once you get further out, it's all based on 0.5, which for moderate magnification rifle scope works quite well. The tree is fairly sparse, so it doesn't block too much. It's easy to see impact. It was a very, very windy day. We were able to do a good amount of shooting. I only shot this scope at 1,000 yards. There were some 1,000-yard plates there. There's this big one over there. That's the one I used to figure out the wind. And then I was able to hit this small plate. I'm not sure what size it is. I'm guessing it's about 18 by 18 based on the fact, that you can do a little bit of ranging with the reticle, roughly. So it was a 3.4 milliradian wind hold. So it was, and I waited, shot it between gusts. That was kind of nice. I enjoyed the scope quite a bit. It was easy to use. It weighs right around 27 ounces. So for a 3 to 18 by 42 crossover design, that would work very well. As I was using it, it was interesting is that I was thinking back to my NRL Hunter match the previous week, and if I wanted to build a 12-pound gun with a reasonable number of accessories and all that, this scope would be just about perfect for that. I have a 12-pound gun that I put together, but I put it together with a relatively heavy tangent theta 5 to 25 scope, so I lightened up everything else. And an alternative way of doing this would be to put a smaller scope and add a suppressor and a beefier bipod, which might not be a bad idea. If I were to do that, this new front focal plane Schmidt would probably be at the top of my list. I don't think it's going to be available before my next NRL Hunter match. That one is in early April. I think this scope is going to come about closer to the summer. But I was quite impressed. It is a nice scope. Schmidt did a very good job with this. It's not going to be cheap, as you know, it is a Schmidt, but it's going to be worthwhile. Okay, I have several out of focus pictures, which is unfortunate. Something went wrong, but not too far from the Schmidt, there were rifle scopes that should have been incredibly different. And I'll talk about, I went and visited them. So Leapers has been talking about their Integrix rifle scopes for a couple of years now. And everything I've seen today, they always say, oh, it's almost ready for production. It never quite went into production. However, what I saw now from an optical system image standpoint looked very mature. I saw 3 models, 1 to 8 by 28, 3 to 18 by 44, and 6 to 36 by 56 from left to right. True, they are made in Taiwan. They're not cheap. I think for the 6 to 36, it was like $2,800, something like that. I don't remember the exact price, but that's about it. I don't know if they're going to get it, but I will say this. Given that I have no idea who this OEM is and all that, I was shocked with how good the image quality looked. And these are also Meprolite, an Israeli company, Meprolite. They make it a point to not do anything in China. They announced precision scopes, and that's the same basic things. And they also said they're made in Taiwan, and they looked very, very similar. So Meprolite and Leapers Integrix are these Taiwanese-made rifle scopes. The turrets feel good. The illumination is reasonable. The reticles I'm not as impressed with, but I'm picky. With Leapers, one of the reticles M2 was not bad. And but again, just purely looking at the image, it looked like a very mature, very well balanced optical system. I was genuinely quite impressed. So I went over and looked at them again earlier today. I'll talk about that when we get to it. But this is Again, coming out of Taiwan, I don't know if they can command the price that they're asking, but purely in terms of image, based on a third, relatively quick look, it is an impressive design. All these pictures turned out like crap, which is annoying. Then we made it out to Telson Optics. I've mentioned this company before since I've been doing some consulting for them, primarily on the reticle designs. They had the big coming out party, and I'm gonna go spend some time in their booth. If you happen to be at SHOT anywhere near, I'm gonna be there tomorrow on Thursday, roughly from 10 a.m. until 11:30 noon, thereabouts. So I was gonna go over the reticles, talk a little bit about how rifle scopes work, all that sort of stuff. These are finally production scopes from the first batch, and I had a chance to shoot with them. The one you're looking at is a 5 to 32 by 56. That's Target Master Victory. I think that's their top of the line Japanese made scope. Did some shooting to 600-ish yards. The reticle looked good, the scope looked good, very well controlled CA, good image quality, turret feel is quite nice. I think they will do pretty well with the scope. That's my best guess. I think they've done well. That's Mortelson. So you may think this is a picture of a Leupold scope, and in a way it is. But what it is really a picture of is the rifle. This is a prototype rifle. And I'm going to zoom in on the important words. Megafix. So it's a fixed rifle that can take larger calibers like 7 PRC, 300 Win Mag, etc. I am in extensive negotiations with the people at Q because I've got a mule deer elk hunt coming up toward October of this year up in Montana, Wyoming, mostly Montana. And I want to use a Megafix for that. So I am going to be collecting signatures for a petition so that they let me borrow one of the prototypes. All right, Mr. Stay on Targets is on the East Coast, so he's going to sleep. Again, I apologize about doing this so late. I just got back here. Have I seen any exciting lightweight MPVO options that won't break the bank? 1.5 to 2.5 on the low end, something like a budget March. I don't think I've seen a budget March, but on the budget end of things, primary arms SLX 2 to 12 by 32 actually look pretty nice. It's a second focal plane scope. I wouldn't be surprised if they make an FFP version of that at some point as well. On the budget end of things, I haven't seen too much that would be MPVO ish. Telson does have a 2.5 to 15 coming out, which is relatively inexpensive. It looked okay, looks decent for the money. I'm gonna spend more time at Telson tomorrow and talk about it some more. But we'll do more coverage of that. Good night. Let's see. Going back to the pictures. Yeah, so Megafix to me is a big deal. I shoot with fixed rifles, like them very, very much. And I intend to continue to primarily hunt with fixed rifles. They work well for me. I'm extremely happy. Okay, Mr. Stern Target's still here. Okay, maybe not that budget. Well, how about you tell me the budget and I'll see what I can come up with. That's probably the best way of approaching this. If you are willing to take that budget up to a couple of grand or so, Primary Arms has the new PLX high magnification rifle scopes. One of them is a 2.5 to 20 by 48, and I really liked it. I think they are going to make a killing with that scope. I'll be honest with you. I'll talk about primary arms more, but while you're still here, so the high magnification, basically this whole PLXC line for primary arms, 1 to 8 by 24, 2.5 to 20 by 48, and 4.5 to 36 by 56. a good way of thinking about it, you're basically getting an attacker performance in an NX8 package. So, and with that, you can go to sleep. 2.5 to 20 by 48 was quite impressive. Like that scope, it just everything came together very well on it. The larger one was good too, but a 2.5 to 20 by 48 kind of ticks a lot of boxes for a crossover design. Where was I? Yeah, going back to so Megafix is coming. I don't know when they will have production versions, probably in a year or so. But I am going to try to convince them that they need to send me a prototype to do some field testing on a large mule deer. So many other focus pictures. There we go. So same basic Q design, same type of handguard, bipod, Q suppressors, all the things that I know and use all the time. And what's that? This is couldn't be further separated from anything Q. This is one of the Henry lever guns, and this is a lever gun that takes AR-15 magazines. They will have two models, one chambered for 223, another one, this is 18-inch barrel, another one chambered for 300 blackout. And this one is the blackout is going to be, I think, 16-inch barrel. It was light, it was handy, it was very quick, and it takes AR-15 magazines. So if you are in a state that gives you trouble with semi-autos, this very innocuous looking lever gun is going to be a huckleberry pretty much. So Mr. Alpine, that PA is attacker level optical. Yes, it absolutely is. Oh, Link is here. Howdy, Link. I'm coming to see you tomorrow. I'll be on that floor of the show. What was I? Yeah. So still, this is all still at range day. More on the Henry. Some revolvers. The revolvers were from Diamondback Firearms, I think. Actually, nice revolvers. I did some shooting with them. They have a 9mm and a 38 special, 3 and 2-inch barrels, respectively, that I really rather liked. Diamondback Firearms also has a AR-15 going with Knights Armaments chrome lined barrel, but it's not something I can do too much with during the show. Let's see, there's a bunch of pictures there that are not all that worthwhile, so I'm gonna quickly did some shooting with different HKs, very nice shooting guns. The lever gun revolution is continuing, all sorts of stuff with different air gun furniture, lots of it from from Aero, for example, places like that. Looking quite good. Let's see. Oh yeah, this was one of the weirdest freaking things. So we go to the Keltec booth. I'm gonna pop a picture on a screen, and I have this gun called the Link. I'm right next to Telston. There we go. Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow. I promised you I'll swing by, so I will. So check this out. So this is the new Keltec PR57. I kid you not, it's a freaking handgun that looks like it has a detachable magazine, yet it doesn't. And you reload it using a stripper clip. It takes 20 rounds of 5.7 by 28. It's super light, super slim, has almost no recoil. It's cut for red dot. It does not have a freaking detachable magazine, which is kind of a really interesting thing, which introduces some questions about the legality of all this sort of stuff. For example, in places where you have magazine size restrictions and all that. Well, it's not a removable magazine, so that's interesting. The one we shot fired. I have this love-hate relationship with many Keltec products. I like how out of the box they are, but I wonder if some of them are a little bit too out of the box, maybe. So we'll see. I don't know. Time will tell. Yeah, that's a picture of how you load this silly thing. So you have a stripper clip. They have this kind of a plunger looking thingy to push the ammo down. You take your thumb and push it in, and they have stripper clips that hold 20 rounds on 5.7 by 28. Stripper clip loaded handgun in the 21st century. This is crazy as shit. But they did it. They were brave enough to do it. Kudos to them. More lever guns of all sorts. I like the Ruger 1894 lever guns. Also at the Ruger booth, they had some of these 1022 variants. And where is it? This guy. I liked it a lot. So it looks like they are doing carbon fiber sleeved, not wrapped, sleeved barrels in house now. And this thing is not just light; it's stupid light, but it appeared to be quite accurate, very easy to shoot. I like this thing. I'm guessing the stock is also done in house. That's pretty cool. Really, really, really lightweight version of a 1022. There was so that was at the basically CZ booth. Shot a little bit with this new Shadow. Was it 2 TS2, whatever it is? That gun has absolutely psychotic trigger. Too light for me. Lots of fun to shoot. We ended up in a Savage booth. Shot a couple of guns. The guns felt a little bit crude, but the reason I wanted to shoot this one is the ammo. This is 7 backcountry. This new weird alloy case that they've got, it does seem to be magnetic, so it is, I assume it's steel of some sort. When we shot it, the recoil and stuff felt relatively mild, given how fast this thing is going. But on the other hand, I didn't chronograph it, so I can't really check their claims. Okay, guys, give me 1 second. And I'm back. But this new generation of federal cartridges that is capable of significantly higher pressure. It's kind of interesting. Bill Geisler posted a video that basically with this higher pressure and using this case with the same bullet, the 56 ammo is shooting about 300 foot per second faster than the standard stuff, and it's chronographed, so I believe it. From what I understand from talking to some federal people, I think they will do some higher pressure versions of existing calibers for the military. But for the civilian market, in order to make sure nobody accidentally blows up his gun, all of these high pressure cartridges that they do will be shaped so that they cannot use an existing gun. It will be new calibers. Reading between the lines a little bit, I think the next high pressure cartridge from them, and it may be a little while, is going to be something the size of 6.5 Creedmoor, which if my back of the napkin calculations are correct, is probably going to give you basically 6.5 PRC performance out of a cartridge the size of 6.5 Creedmoor, which honestly I thought was pretty cool. Let's see, I'm gonna cycle with it. Looked at some less lethal stuff, which was surprisingly a lot of fun. Looked at some suppressors, quite evil looking, that I liked quite a bit. Huxwork suppressors, looked okay. I'm not the biggest suppressor specialist. I know what I use and I like. And that's more or less what I have all from my pictures from the range day. I have a couple. My brother is helping me with photography, so I'm gonna look into some of the pictures that he's got and see if there is anything here that you guys want to see or that reminds me of something else we saw. Had some other people that I don't want their faces on the screen because I'm on front of the screen. They didn't sign up for this, so I am looking through pictures while I'm talking here so that their faces would not put up. My brother is very good in taking very unflattering pictures of me. Okay, so here's a good picture of this new Schmidt and Bender scope. Yeah, but that's not very different from what I did before, so that should be okay. People that you don't need to see. Lots of lever guns. I'm enjoying this whole tactical lever gun revolution, I have to admit. That is a nice way to go. Okay. Interesting. So I sent my brother to go roam around and look at some stuff that I haven't really seen yet, and he's got pictures of quite a few things that I have yet to visit. So tomorrow's Thursday, I am going to go do some of that. Mr. Stern targets sounds impressive. Hopefully, PA comes out with a JLX version with a lower ratio, 2.5 to 15/4, maybe, of Vortex. Have a great night. Yeah, good night. I'm sure PA is going to do something with the JLX line, but they just had a bunch of introductions, so it's going to take them a little time. All of these things, they sound easy on paper, but when you're trying to do 20 of them at the same time, yeah, it's not so straightforward. Yeah. Moving right along, one of the first things I visited, one of the first booths I visited when I got to SHOT Show proper on Tuesday, was EOTech, partly because I really wanted to see this little scope, and partly because the way the show's laid out, it's pretty much the first one on my path. So I go to visit EOTech, and there the new thing is this tiny little 329x32 rifle scope with a compact ACOG mounting system. It is a Alpine. Which PA was it you commanded with the excellent optics? I'm searching online now. It's not available yet. It is going to be listed under the Discover 2025, like the announcements. You're probably not going to see it for sale until second half of the year. It's a PLX compact, 2.5 to 20x48. I'll have some pictures of that a little bit later on in this discussion. Where was I? Yeah, so EOTech. In terms of how it looked optically, it actually looked pretty nice. Mechanically, seemed to be all right, nice and smooth. A power adjustment, turrets are covered, illumination is okay, and absolutely mystifyingly to me, they decided to make it with a floating MOA hash reticle and second focal plane. Second focal plane is okay. The reticle configuration is mystifying me, right? So MOA tells me you're going after hunters, but if you're going after hunters with 39x32 scope, you don't want to do just the hash marks and no thick bars. Like, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. But optomechanically, I haven't shot with it, but it's a decent scope. Wolford, that dot is huge. You're talking about the dot in the reticle on the EOTech? Yes. It's a very large center dot, and then it's like a floating crosshair of semi-thin lines with hashes. I don't know who came up with this. That's freaking odd. So it's like, it's almost like EOTech had that scope for something else, and they decided, let's try it for the average Joe, and they just threw something together without thinking about it too much. It was just freaking weird. But if they decide to put a normal reticle into it, either a more common hunting reticle or mid-radian reticle for people who want to use it for SPR-ish use, if you see how short this stupid thing is, it would work amazingly well behind the thermal clip-on. I think if EOTech doesn't screw it up, it definitely has potential. So here's a couple of pictures. After EOTech, I stopped by Field Optics Research. They have a new tripod head, which actually liked a good bit. Very, very smooth gradual adjustments. You see that fairly large rotary knob here. I'm gonna get one and play with it. They have the dome top tripod that I like. And this is their takes on a sorter on an inverted ball head that I like quite a bit. So one of my problems with many inverted ball heads that I see out there is that they are either locked tight, locked, um, when they're locked, it's like tight, can't move anything, and then the moment you release it, it's completely loose. And from a shooting standpoint, if you're gonna clip your rifle into this and shoot, what you want to be able to dial in some tension so that there's a lot of resistance. But if you need to make a small adjustment, you can. And with this head, I think you'll be able to do it. I had a rifle there, I could play with it. So it's an interesting tripod, and I'm gonna get my hands on it and play with it. Wolford, I'd love a fiber TMR, my 2 cents. You're absolutely correct. He's referring to about that EOTech 329x32. A simple TMR style reticle with a fiber dot would have been great in that scope. But it probably makes too much sense for a normal American optic manufacturer. So if it makes sense, there's a really good chance they're not going to do it. Why would you listen to your customers? Some more pictures of the field optics research head. I rather enjoyed it. It has some additional rotation, stuff like that. I then stopped by Meprolite. It was quite there, right there. I mentioned earlier that these are Taiwanese made scopes. This particular one is a 6 to 36 by 56. Turrets felt good. The image quality looked good. Everything adjusted nicely. Again, I don't know. It's hard to say how it will do until I test it on a gun and at the range. But I was very surprised with how mature the optical system looked. Again, there are 3 models. At the at the top is a 128 by 28. The turrets look huge. I don't know why they made them so huge. On the 128 by 28, the turrets pop up, so they're locking turrets, but still they're enormous. That will make some of the, if you want to mount a piggyback red dot on this, good luck. The turret is going to block everything. And the mid-size model there on the bottom with a piggyback red dot, and you see how high this thing has to sit. Let me show you, right? So see how high this thing has to sit in the turret. That's just not a good way of doing it. And same business on the 3218 by 44. But, they did it this way. It's their scope. They can do what they want. Again, optically, I really like 3218 by 44. It's right around 30 ounces. So that's also going to be an interesting option for the crossover world. Moving right along, US Optics was there. They've got this new line of what they call the X scopes of different dimensions. These are OEM scopes made in China. LXR is a 4 to 24. There's a second focal plane, front focal plane version. There's a new low power variable. It basically replaces the TS scopes of all sorts. And I had a 3218 by 50 TXH with kind of an interesting reticle. So not bad. I would have liked some evolution with the foundation FX foundation scopes. I didn't see that, but that's okay. They're doing their thing. This TXH 220 looked interesting. A little bit later in the spring, when I hopefully I'll have a little more time, that would be a good one to get my hands on. Right across the walkway from US Optics was Tangent Theater, Armament Technologies, right? These are the people who bring in the Elcans, and they are the guys behind Tangent Theta rifle scopes. I don't think I need to talk about Tangent Theta too much. I continue to be extremely impressed with them. They had a new addition to their SAI optics line, and this particular guy, I'm trying to see if I have a better picture. And some reason, so many of my pictures these days are out of focus, which is disappointing. This is what this guy is. It's a very compact 1 to 10 by 24 millimeter front focal plane LPVO. And it's going to be a little bit more expensive, I think, than the existing 1 to 6. And I am looking at, so they sent me the spec sheet on it. There we go. So it weighs 18.6 ounces. It's 9 inches long. It's 1 to 10 magnification range, front focal plane, 30 millimeter tube, 3.35 inches of eye relief. So it's a relative, it's a pretty compact design. It is probably the lightest 1 to 10 I can think of. The field of view is rather moderate. It's 20 degrees apparent field of view. So it's, well, yeah, it's a 0.1 milliradian turrets. The turrets are covered. Optically, when I just, glanced at it again inside the show, yada, 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 optically, I rather liked it. Okay. The reticle illumination is not super bright. Stylistically, the reticle is similar to what they have in the 1 to 6 size 6 scopes that I rather like. It has those high visibility fixtures like X-Wing and stuff like that. Yeah. Where was I? Yeah. So the 1 to 10 by 24 side 10, I guess, looked interesting, and I am going to get my hands on one. They should be getting into production relatively soon and play with it. We'll see. Mr. Rabbit Slayer 48. I'm interested in competition for the Razer LHT. I know you like it, but I thought it was overpriced hot garbage. Okay, like I said, we're in disagreement with it since I have a lot of scopes here. Most of them come and go, and HDL HT stayed. I really like that design, but it is what it is. It is difficult to make a ultra lightweight scope. That's just the truth of it. I have not seen anything at the weight of Razer HDL HT that would get anywhere near it in performance. That's just it, right? The new PA is about 30 ounces. The new Schmidt 3 to 18 is 27 ounces. That's the range you're dealing with. I have not seen anything lighter than that that would have, of that type, that would have been any good. Yeah, so this is just to give you an idea of the size of this Psi 10. That's my hand next to it. I do not have very big hands. So the scope is 9 inches long. It is an impressively small design. I'm kind of surprised with how small it is. Once I made it over into the main hall, I had somewhere to go, and Kala Swarovski were right on the way. So I went to look at the big new K540i. To the left is K328i, the one they announced last year, 3.5 to 28 by 50, and on the right is a somewhat longer scope that's 5 to 40 by 56 millimeter objective, somewhat longer tube. Just as purely aesthetically, visually, it is a better proportioned scope. Okay. Mr. Alpine goes, I wish HDLHT had 10 mils per rev. Yeah, for competition use, it would be better. For hunting use, I think what they have is enough. Everything is a compromise. If you're trying to keep the weight down, you have to think about everything. One of the ways to keep the weight down is to make relatively simple turrets with widely spaced clicks. Then you don't have to work quite as hard to make the clicks distinct. So with 6 miliradian per turn, what they're doing is they're leaving lots of space between the clicks, and then the turret can be of moderate diameter, it can be low. So that's the basic idea. But anyhow, so looking at the picture, on the right is a Collis K540 scope. I looked at it relatively carefully, and again, I don't want to talk about Swarovski Collis for the reasons that I've already described in the past. But I like that it's a good scope. It seems like a good scope. To forewarn the next question, no, I do not plan to be reviewing any of the Collis Swarovski products. They make nice scopes and they make nice products. My issue is not with the products at all. My issue is with that preposterous patent, and I do not want to give. I do not want to give them any airtime. That's just that. Same with the new Swarovski Z5i scopes. I'm sure they're nice scopes. They look very long, which surprised me a little bit. But optically, they look quite nice. So the reason I ended up at Swarovski Collis is that I was going toward the March booth and they were in the way. The only really new things March had this time around, one is the competition version of the 5 to 42 scope with a simple, very robust, very good clicks 5 to 42 rifle scope with a writable turret. Just a single 10 miliradian turn and a tape that you can easily mark up as you're coming up for the stage. So this is their take on a PRS scope. Again, it's a different turret, very good click quality, good optical quality. I looked at it. This is the Gen 2 version of the 5 to 42 March. I rather liked it. Okay, guys, give me a second again. Okay, so I'm back. March, yeah. So March 5 to 42 with this turret, Gen 2 actually looked pretty nice. Still has relatively shallow depth of field. It still has a relatively tight eye box. But if you're on moderate magnifications, eye box is perfectly reasonable. It's not bad at all. I have a Gen 1 of the scope that I've been using for a long time. Gen 2 seems to be a little bit better. Gen 2 seems to be a little bit better off axis. Sweet spot is larger, edges a little bit better corrected. Where March booth was, that's more or less the best I could do. RDC D20, did you visit the Optisun or UTG booths? Any thoughts on their lineups? I did. I talked to Optisun. I'm not super familiar with their scopes. My buddy Jim Fisher, which I don't know if Jim is a shot this year or not. He did a reticle for them, and I looked at that. It's in an LPVO. It's pretty nice design. They had several other relatively compact scopes. Actually, look pretty good. I don't have a ton of mileage with Optisun products. I don't think I've ever tested one. But these relatively compact and expensive scopes they had, I thought they were well done. So, link DNT Archon 735. I have not made it to DNT yet either. That's tomorrow, and I did not look at Archon. I don't think the 735s changed much since last time I saw it, and I was not terribly impressed. So UTG booth. So UTG is leapers. I did stop by. The only thing I looked there were the Integrix scopes, the Taiwanese higher end scopes, and they looked pretty good as I mentioned earlier. And I'll have a few more pictures further out on this. Like I said, I'm just basically going through the pictures I took. I take them to refresh my memory, and to provide commentary. Let's see what else I have there. More with March. So The other thing March had, and Alpine, the old March 3 to 24 by 52 are close in way to the HDL but the price is not all designed for much. Doesn't seem to be dropping. Not too much, and the iBox node gets a little tight, and depth of field gets a little shallow. And it's close, but still it's about 24 ounces. But that's the closest you're going to find. You are correct. So the other thing there from March was what they call the tracking scope. And what it basically is, it's a optical system from the Genesis scopes repackaged a little bit differently into a spotting scope looking thing. And in the middle here, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not. I hope you can. Hard to say. But the middle is basically a ball joint. So because you have that, you are able to do small adjustments without doing anything with the tripod, right? So the ball joint allows you to kind of slowly and very smoothly track across the field looking for something. It is a potentially interesting field spotter because of the relatively moderate objective and longitudinal, this kind of elongated design. It would fit very, very nicely in a side pocket of a pack or something like that. For now, this is still a prototype. It's kind of a concept. They're just exploring ideas. It's not bad. It still has a long eye relief, so there's kind of an extension tube to tell you where to position your eye. I would maybe want to try to see with this with a wide angle eyepiece if the optical system supports it. But it was good optically. It was an interesting idea. Two versions, 6 to 60 and 80. So it was kind of a out of the box idea. I'm not fully sold on it, but I see several applications where it could be quite useful and easy to do. It does greatly simplify kind of scanning across the scene of what you're looking at. Link is asking about 2.5 to 25 March. So that's a second focal plane model. It's an older design. It works very well. I think you asked me about how stiff the adjustments are. There's some variance, but magnification ring on it is relatively stiff. I don't remember it being unusually stiff, and the one I looked at yesterday, it was not too bad at all. But it is, relatively stiff. Right next to March was Meopta. They're going through a kind of a resurgence a little bit. Meopta, the company, was purchased a bit over a year ago, and they are coming back to the US market and revamping their product line. So that's relatively early. What you see in this picture is a part of the military product line. On the left and in the center are the two prismatic scopes, 4 power and 5 power, made in the Czech Republic. They looked all right, like physically, in terms of the shape and stuff, look a little bit odd, but image quality was quite good. Might be they're over $1,000, I think, so that's a little expensive for prismatics these days. The one further back is a 5 to 30 by 56. It's their version of a hunting scope. Field of view was a little bit on the narrow side. Turrets were pretty good. Optical quality pretty good. The reticle was very European military, so 20, 30 years behind the times. As is, I don't think it would be a viable design in the US market, law enforcement or military or civilian, because of the configuration. But, it has potential. And Meopta is capable of making very, very nice stuff. So it's hard to say. Andrew Smith, is US optics still relevant with the new optics, say from Colors and other optics like ZCOTT Vortex Gen 3? They're still nice scopes, the FDN series, but depends on what price you pay. At 3,000, it would be a tough sell, but they do perform quite nicely. If you find a good deal on one, they're nice scopes. So Alpine, I was a little surprised how much Frank Lollet likes the new Night for Sport. I looked at it some and didn't find it that impressive optically. compared to Kova Swarovski or even 6 to 36 rifle scopes. What did you think of the Night Forces Spotter? They introduced it last year. I thought it was hot garbage back then. I still think it is hot garbage now. I don't know why Frank likes it. I never talked to Frank about it, so it's hard to say. I thought it was poor optically, grossly overpriced, and I can't quite figure out why I'd want one. Steiner has a similar one they introduced that's actually better, but also overpriced. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with it. I didn't like that Night Force product. I keep on having this thing with Night Force products. I really like the attacker scopes and everything else from them. I'm just not excited about. And the spotter is not going to change that opinion of mine. Back to Meopta. So the high power scopes are 5 to 30 by 56. They call it Meoforce DF. I'm not sure what DF is. Maybe Defense Forces, something like that. The new guy who seemed to be in charge of Meopta is a military officer. I'm not sure how long he's been out of the military, but I think he's got his work cut out for him. Meopta is a good name. They can do this well, but it's not going to be straightforward. What you see on the screen now, yes, you see it on the screen. So they have their own magnifier, and they've got a couple of new red dots that are very, very different. So with this red dot, you can basically draw a reticle. What is projecting the screen is not an LED with a mask, projecting a dot across the square, but a little LED, like micro LED screen that's bright enough to create a very bright reticle. As you look through, so you can do drop reticles and all sorts of stuff that obviously works best with the magnifier. They have two red dots like this, a smaller one, which is what you see, and there is a larger one. I think I have a picture of that somewhere. No, that's still the smaller one called Meodot DFTM4. Very sophisticated red dot sight. I was quite impressed with it, but it's going to be like $1,300. The larger version with the same basic technology is this kind of center here. That I think is even more expensive. It is cool and it's clever, and the fact that you can do sophisticated reticles that would work quite well with the magnifier is a nice touch. But the $1,300-$1,500 red dot sight in the US market is just not going to fly, no matter how clever it is from a technical standpoint. So I'm sorry to say. After, actually, I have some more on Meopta. Just not the pictures, have a couple of notes. So they're revamping everything. On the hunting side of things, what used to be Optica 6 is now called Mio Pro R6. That's an OEM product. What used to be Optica 5 or something along those lines is Mio Hunter. We'll see. We'll see how it all. Does. I wish Meopta well. I think they can do well, but they will need to really figure out how they want to play. How they want to play in the US market. Yeah. After Meopta, I quickly stopped by Seekins. They have this new line of rifles that can work with the high pressure cartridges. This is one of them. Very nicely done rifles. Some crazy lightweight. They have like 5.8 pound, 300 PRC, just crazy shit. What this picture is something that I thought was super clever. The way they did the Arca plate on this very lightweight hunting rifle, super tiny, super short, and you can only mount it on an Arca clamp in a transverse configuration, which looks weird, but it allows you to have a super unobtrusive Arca plate on the rifle. I thought, it was such a clever idea that I took a picture. That's a little bit more on this rifle. Integrate Picatinny rail, quick. It's the PH3 design. Quick change barrel system. They started doing their own carbon fiber wrapped barrels. And the cool thing about this is that these are not bull barrels, right? These are carbon fiber wrapped, but they are more like a mid-weight hunter profile barrels. Very nice rifles. I was quite impressed. Looked very good. Stopped by GPO. I think most of you guys know I've been looking at this 4x short scope, the 4060 by 44. I thought it was an interesting idea to put a sign at SHOT Show that says "Touch me." I thought it was kind of interesting. But it's a nice little scope. They are exploring the idea of another reticle in it, something that gives a little bit more visibility on low power on 4x. So they're looking to add a horse to the reticle, maybe some other stuff. I think it's a good idea. And as I've been testing the scope so far, it's a nice little scope. I think it's a good mid power option for AR-15 pattern rifles. Let's see. I had a meeting with Schmidt and Bender after that, where I was already familiar with the front focal plane 3218 by 42. I am going to be testing it. This is the reticle that's currently in it. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. You saw the picture that I had from the range day. This kind of gives you possibly a better look. Again, I had some input into the reticle and I like the design, so I think it will work nicely. This year, I'm probably going to look at the front focal plane 3218 by 42 and hopefully front focal plane version of the high power scope, the 10 to 60 by 56. After that, I found myself at the Bushnell booth. So I'm always curious about what's going to happen with Bushnell because the brand has been kind of dying a slow and unpleasant looking death. But it's an iconic American optics company. I'd like to see it do okay. All right, give me 1 sec, guys. All right, I'm back. So Vista spun off several gun-related brands into a different company called Revelist, and that was purchased by some private investment hedge fund, something investment fund, whatever, not too long ago. So they now have nothing to do with Vista. Much smaller booth. They're slowly going through and revamping all of their products and doing seemingly a reasonable job at it, honestly. Um, a new inexpensive line of different hunting scopes. They're also bringing back Siemens. Those are very, very inexpensive, $120 scopes. From Bushnell will be different R series scopes, R3, R5, R7. R7 is probably next year. R3 and R5 were there now. 3-time director ratio, 5-time director ratios. Again, all Chinese made, relatively inexpensive designs. They looked okay. It's not too bad. The Match Pro is staying. The 3218 by 50 Match Pro is relatively new. There's a new G5 MRAD reticle, which I actually liked. It's 0.25 lithium based reticle. G5 looked pretty good. Not sure if I have a picture. We'll see. They finally have an illuminated version of XRS3. Not yet for DMR3. But that looked all right. With the G5 reticle, it might be a viable option. It's not too bad. They have a nice lineup of red dots. One of the newer ones, they had a couple new ones. One of them was this enclosed option. Actually looked pretty good. So I need to think about it. I might look at one. I thought it was a pretty interesting idea. I am cautiously optimistic. The guy I talked to at Bushnell seemed to understand the product line, seemed to want to do better, seemed to understand the screw up that they had before. So hopefully Bushnell is going to reform itself and become a viable brand as it as it should be. So that's another look at that Bushnell enclosed red dot that I thought was quite decent. I stopped by Steiner Predator, Steiner booth. I'm gonna go back tomorrow to talk to the Burris guys. I didn't look very carefully at the new XTR, so don't ask me about that. I know what it is, but I didn't. I have not seen production versions. The e-Predator basically takes a talks to the Predator binoculars that have a laser rangefinder, takes the signal, calculates a drop, and it has a heads-up display inside. It's a second focal plane hunting scope, 3 to 24 by 50, which actually looked quite nice. This particular one is an MOA version, which I take offense to, but as a system, it's not bad at all to be able to laze a target and have the distance from laser rangefinder transmitted into the scope, and the scope show you that, and as you dial elevation, you see that as well in the same units. I think it is a nice idea. Okay. And where is it? Okay, that is something else, I believe. Yeah. So before we get to that, Steiner has the Gen 2 C35 clip-on that we've talked about in the past. It was designed in Germany. They did not make a Picatinny mount for it, which I thought was weird. So with a couple of friends, we put one together. And Annex Defense is the guys at Annex Defense are making it for me. I am going to. There is a pre-order page. In maybe 3 weeks or so, we should have. Excuse me. We should have mounts. When I say we, I mean Annex Defense, and here is what that looks like. So they have one sitting, if you are at SHOT Show, they have one sitting at SHOT Show booth. This is the Picatinny mount. It will work for any thermals made by Guide Infrared, one of the Chinese OEMs. It's a simple mount, but it can slide under the objective of more or less any scope that's 50 millimeters or less. So you can position it correctly. It's 1.5-inch height, so that's what it's going to match. And this is what it looks like when sitting in front of the scope, just so that you know. Okay. So the first production batch is coming in. Was hoping to have it for SHOT Show, as is always the case. Didn't quite pan out, but it's coming shortly. All righty. So after Steiner, I stopped by Leopold. Hold on a sec again. I'm sorry for the interruptions. I am back. So Leopold finally got a new reticle into the 2 to 10 by 30 Mark V HD, and I want this one. So I'm going to test this one. I avoided testing that Leopold because I wanted this different reticle. It's basically a brightly illuminated horseshoe and a relatively sparse tree. I think this is the right reticle design for the scope. What you're looking at is a very quick handheld shot on 2 power. And it's bright. It's seriously bright. So I think Leopold, I think this is the right reticle for this scope. Taking a picture at high magnification handheld was not straightforward. I made it multiple shots, and I was finally able to do it when it was not illuminated. So the donut gets quite bright. The tree is relatively sparse. I thought the reticle worked well across the magnification range. I think this is a very good reticle for the MPVO. So stay tuned. There will be a review coming. They also revamped the VX6 HD line. Now the turret is resettable without tools. There's this little lever here that comes up that you can use to reset the turrets. Optical, I think it's more or less the same. But um, turrets seem to be better. And overall, it's kind of a slightly cleaned up version. I always liked the X6 HD scopes. I think they're on the expensive side. I think the X5s are better for the money. But it's a nice scope. All right. I'm kind of fading here. So a few more minutes and I'm going to sleep. Still have a long day tomorrow. Stop by Holosun briefly to look at the fused sites. They have this DRS sites that's fused with like digital night vision and with thermal. They still laggy and icky. I was not impressed. I met with the guys from Tract. Well, one guy, John Lacorte from Tract. He's a good dude. They are continuing this collaboration with what's his name, John Eagleman, the guy who teaches has a shooting school out in Alabama. They did an Eagleman reticle in the 4-25 by 50. That was MOA only. It was apparently quite successful for them, and they're gonna do a Milradian version in the 4-25 by 50, and they're gonna do both Milradian and MOA versions in the 2.5 to 15 by 44. They had a sample of that reticle to show me. I think it's a good reticle. It's nice and simple. It should work well. It's kind of a good Milhash reticle, somewhat abbreviated. Not too much in it. I think it's a nice design, and obviously I like the Milradian version quite a bit more. Quite a bit more than the MOA version, since I don't think the MOA version should exist. But the market disagrees. So the guys from Q are here, so I went, stopped by and chatted. I generally spit what's happening. I saw their rather diminutive 556 suppressor they call Lefty. I will need to get my hands on one again. That's my hand. I don't have big hands. It's a nice suppressor with relatively low back pressure, it seems. So I am going to, once it comes in stock somewhere, I'm going to pick one up. Somehow, a couple of pictures from the General Hunter match sneaked in here. This is taken by Travis Ashida, so all credit goes to him. That's me spotting, trying to find my targets with the Leica Geovid Pro binocular. The binocular was spectacular. Me, not so much. Pictures, not a movie, so you do not hear what I'm muttering over there. None of that was fit for print. And that's further in the same stage, trying to shoot off of a log with relatively moderate success because I was out of time on everything. Okay. So another picture of this Holosun. This is the one fused with thermal. The fusion kind of works, except it's misaligned and laggy. Other than that, it's great. Bach has knives with Magna cut blades. I did go visit Optison briefly. I liked their compact scopes. They were actually pretty decent. Again, indoors it's hard to see and all that, but I thought they were quite respectable. They had a 4-16, I think, and a 3-12, and I liked them both. I stumbled on Optison on my way to Primary Arms, and Primary Arms had a good number of things out. One of the really interesting ones is this HTX1 red dot sight. HTX1 is... But Travis is a great guy. Who is Travis? Which Travis are you talking about? Don't know. Please specify which Travis you mean. Which where was I? Oh, you're talking about NRL guy, Travis Ishida. Sorry, I forgot what I was talking about a moment ago. Yeah, I like Travis. He's a good dude. I don't want to use his pictures too much without asking him first. So that he published them on Facebook on the NRL Hunter group, and I pulled off a couple. Me shooting. They're nice pictures that make me look like I know what I'm doing. So I think Travis is a magician. Um, Going back to primary arms, so they have this enclosed HTX1 red dot sight. It is the only one I can think of that's really truly fully made in the United States. Lenses, everything. Um, I've known of its development for a while. It's a complicated machining, not a simple thing. It's going to be in an 800-ish dollar range, I think. And given that it's fully made in the US, it's not terribly surprising. Battery compartments on the side, everything is metal. It's kind of a chassis system, and they will have three different chassis included with everyone, so you can get it in different footprints. This particular one, actually, I don't know what this particular one is. You could put it on RMR footprint, on Delta Point Pro footprint, or onto just a Glock. Um, the normal Glock cut. That's probably the one I'm gonna try to use. I have a Gen 5 with a Glock cut on it. That's probably would be a best option for it. Very low deck height, which you can do if the battery is on the right. So it will co-witness with standard height irons. Very good collimation quality. Center dot at 3 MOA is smaller than I like, but again, collimation quality was good, so it's probably worth a shot. As I said, I rather liked it. I am gonna get my hands on one relatively soon, so I'll have more to say about it shortly. So that's the PLX Compact, 2.5 to 20 by 48 front focal plane. The very easy scope to get behind, very good eye box, nice eyepiece. I think PA did a very, very good job with this design. Turrets are all new. It's a complete redesign. Like it's kind of this. There's several different versions of this turret. The way they did it inside, change a lot of stuff. Windage can be locking or covered or exposed. I have a picture later on of what the turret looks like on the inside. Very, very clever design. I was quite impressed. Clicks feel awesome. There you go. So there's an upper and lower cones here. One does the zero stop, one does the adjustment. Easy to reset. To put the outer turret on, there's a conical surface interface, so it's not going anywhere. Just very clever. Mechanically, very, very clever. I was quite impressed. Same scope. There we go. That's the picture of the turret kind of opened up. The red thing on the bottom is what the zero stop, where the zero stop is. The blue one is hooked up to the stem, and that's what is doing the adjustment. And this conical surface underneath is where the locking set screws make contact. Rather than digging into a piece of metal, you are locking onto a conical surface. Just very clever. This is my attempt to take a picture through a new version of the 1 to 8 PLXC compact. So they made the version of their front focal plane 1 to 8 scope that now has a diffractive reticle. This is a snapshot from it on 1 power. The dot is seriously, the center is seriously bright. It's a horseshoe that is illuminated using diffractive technology. It is seriously, it's a absolutely nuclear bright. Even with a camera snapshot, you can see it clearly. The camera does not do it justice, I think. So that's going to be a very valuable, I think, addition to the PLXC product line. So this is what it looks like on higher magnifications. Again, all these pictures are sort of handheld. It was difficult to line things up. So I apologize. Alpine, do you have to lift the turret to rotate it on the PA? Yes, there are set screws. You loosen and you lift up the turret if you want. I mean, if you want to reset it. To just rotate it, it's not a locking turret, right? At least the one I looked at, it had very, very good clicks. You just rotate it and that's it. You don't have to lift anything. Okay, so this is another scope with a Deca reticle, with it I thought was pretty nice. This is SLX 2 to 12 SFP with a fiber illuminated reticle. It's actually a nice little scope. I think hunters will like it quite a lot. Lightweight, compact. It looked optically, it's not a PL, it's not a fancy scope, but for what it is, I thought it looked quite nice. I made several attempts to take a picture of the simpler reticle from PA handheld. This is a different. This is one in SLX with very moderate success. I'll just have to get my hands on these and take better pictures. So this is then finished housing of the HTX red dot sight. This is where the battery housing looks like. I'm not showing you the bottom. The way it is machined on the bottom is seriously complicated. I was quite impressed I pulled it off. So nice red dot. It will be, again, I think it will do very, very well for PA, especially given I think it's the only red dot that's truly fully US made. More pictures of that. So it comes in this box. It has all the adapters, accessories, and everything. Everything is nicely packaged. Okay, Wolford. Not sure if marketing guy was misinformed, but he said new 1 to 8 is bright edge to edge, even into the black like a fiber SFP. Is that actually true? I'm not sure what bright edge to edge means. The center portion illuminated, it's very bright. It's a front focal plane reticle. That's works like any other diffractive illuminated front focal plane reticle. Let's see. I went and talked to the guys at UF Pro. That's a Slovenian company that makes tactical clothing. Quite impressive. I like that. I went and visited Apex. It's this Canadian optics company. They do nice stuff. They do something very, very clever. They have this vapor prismatic that has variable magnification from 1 to 4. So it essentially functions like a second focal plane, 1 to 4. It's a very, very clever design where what they did is they made a basic prismatic and then in front of it they put a 1 to 4 afocal multiplier. Looked to be lined up. It's relatively light, less than a pound with a mount. I thought it was very, very clever system and very nice way to go. So that would be something that I will look to test at some point. Apex Vapor 1 to 4, but I think 22. Interesting design. So that's what the front end looks like. So to change magnification, this thing on the front is what rotates. Very kind of out of the box approach to doing variable magnification. I've never seen it done with Viz optics. I've seen it done with thermals, but not with Viz. Yeah, so that's the reticle that's in this variable power prismatic. Field of view is nice and wide. I thought it was a very viable design. To be honest with you. They had a couple new pistol red dot sights, pretty good. One of the things they talked about a little bit last year, and now they had one to show, almost kind of ready for prime time. They have a 1 to 10 front focal plane low power variable at 21 ounces. This one is made, assembled in the US. Japanese components assembled in the US, which I thought was pretty cool, I'll be honest. So good for them. Optical, it looked quite nice. I haven't tested it, so I don't have any real insight. But I thought it was a pretty decent scope. And as always, being assembled in the US is a nice touch. 1 to 10 by 24. I stopped by MDT. They replaced a lot of their different chassis systems, although not all, with the LSS Gen 3, which is reconfigurable. You can do it with different stocks, different foreends, and stuff like that. This is all different variants of this LSS 3 design. You could do carbon fiber stuff that's lightweight, regular stuff. That was pretty cool. It looks like MDA purchased this Mountain MTN gear company that's a very, very light 5-ounce bipod out of New Zealand. They showed some prototypes there. Production stuff is not quite there yet. It's probably mid-year. Very clever design. You can just splay angle, single pull legs, 5.5 ounces. Very cool. I might have to get one and play with it. Yeah, so they have a couple of versions. One on top that does not adjust splay angle, the one on the bottom does. I thought they were well made. MDT's has a new titanium brake. Seem to be very nice and lightweight, so interesting design. They call it the Hunt brake. Okay, I don't shoot with brakes too much. We'll see. Wolfer goes, Zerotech company I've never heard of also has a variable one for prism that uses a motor to change magnification. Interesting. Looked very junk, however. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen it, so I don't have anything really to say on the subject. What am I looking? So, Swamp Fox has a new Patriot 2 6 to 24. To my considerable surprise, it had covered turrets for being a front focal plane scope. That's kind of odd, but okay. Optically, looked pretty decent. We'll see how it does further out. Okay. Citroen S6 line got a new 10 to 60 by 56 model, and for reasons I don't fully understand, that they had prototypes there. There'll be full launch will be in a little while. For reasons I don't fully understand, it had a covered windage turret. I don't get that, but hey. SIG had a booth again. I think they mostly had it for the meeting rooms, but there was some product out. I got a chance to look at the new Echo thermals. They actually look pretty nice. I'm guessing they're probably IRA cores. I don't know for sure. This is a tiny 25mm clip-on. They also have a 50mm dedicated rifle scope. I thought it looked quite nice. The clip-on looked really nice in that, the screen was nice and bright. I think they did a good job, good amount of detail. Not bad at all. Moving right along, I went and visited ZCO. Their 2 to 10 scopes are finally close to shipping. They've got a ton of pre-orders. They got 3 reticles. I didn't care too much for 2 of them, but one, the one they call HDR. I guess, Hunter reticle, I assume. That actually looked pretty good. And I looked at it optically, the scope looked very nice. I think they did a very good job with it. Single turn turret, which is the right approach for a scope like this, I think. You could do 2 meridians under 0 and then or dial 12 meridian up, which I think is enough. I like the scope, honestly. I think this show did a good job with this guy. I'm kind of fading here, so I'm rushing through. If I don't finish, I will have to do so later. More lever guns from Marlin and the Ruger's direction. Unbeknownst to me, Winchester has a line of optical products, and that includes a couple of Chinese-made thermals. Actually, for the price, even the highest resolution one is 2,500, and the other ones are under 2. For the price, it actually looked quite nice. I was pleasantly surprised. Next to Winchester was Armasight, and they've got this thermal clip-on that's rated for a 50 BMG. That's a 35mm. Nice score. I looked at it carefully, lots of detail. I think Armacite thermals for this, rebirth of Armacite are really coming around. I thought it was quite nice. So during the coming year, I'm gonna try to test this one. Runs on two CR123 batteries. IPS is pretty good. Objective focus, very very trim and lightweight design. I think it should do well, but again, until I test one, it's very hard to say. This one is called the Operator, and then they have the one that's rated for 308, not as quite as robust. This is a 25 millimeter model called Joker, something like that. I don't remember for sure. Also looked pretty good, but the Operator was more impressive. And the Operator, I'm trying to remember what the cost is. Probably in the 5K range, I think. Something like that. Let's see what else we got. I'm looking for my little notepad where I have a ton of illustrations where I was explaining shit to unsuspecting people who didn't want me to explain anything. That's that. Okay. How does the sensor size or objective size play into the image quality of the thermal? Quite directly, actually. So, are you talking about sensor size, physical size, or are you talking about the sensor size in terms of the pixel count? The way thermals are specified, when you see it, when it says a 35 millimeter lens, it's not 35 millimeter objective. That's 35 millimeter focal. It might have a 35 millimeter objective if it's an f1 lens. A longer lens will be narrow field of view, so you'll reach further out, but you lose the wider field of view, right? So, physical size, just like with any other image sensor, you get more light, just infrared light falling on it. But more or less, the standard for modern thermals is a 12 micropixel pitch. So the physical size is just how many pixels you have there. The two common sizes are 384 by 280 something and 640 by 512. You want 640 by 512. There are some high resolution ones out there, but not too many. Some are looking pretty nice, but they're still just too expensive. So for this Armacite that I'm talking about looking at, that would be a 640 by 512. So this would just VGA resolution, but it had a good amount of detail. The SIG thermals also had the same resolution, also good amount of detail. I thought they were done rather nicely. Found another New Zealand bipod that was very light. It was distributed by a company called Snowy Mountain Rifles. Never heard of them before, but apparently they make very, very, very accurate rifles. I went back to stop by the Leapers booth to look at the Integrix scopes again, and they are very clearly marked as made in Taiwan. They're making some noise that they're going to set up manufacturing in the US as well. We'll see how that goes. May take a little time. I stopped by Hilux. They've got some new things coming. They've got the 1X prismatic. They have a large window red dot sight. These are all still prototype designs, and they have a couple ultra short scopes, the 4-16 and 3-12. There, again, they're prototypes. They need a little work, but they looked promising. And that's a picture of my brother. That is not real relevant here. He ate a bunch of fries at dinner, so I took a picture in order to have some blackmail material. If he's not nice to you, I'm gonna have to show that picture to his wife. The other thing that I did today in the morning, there was a Leica breakfast. Leica does not have a booth here, but for the last couple of years, they would do this breakfast for some invited media. Lots of information there and stuff that that is worth discussing in more detail. But honestly, at this stage, I'm fading, and I want to clear up a couple of things with my contact with Leica. I will try to do so tomorrow. If all goes well, I'll do a part 2 tomorrow night. And I'll start off with a discussion of what's happening at Leica Optics, and then add on additional information that I come up with tomorrow. Thank you all for sticking with me. I know it's late. I do appreciate it. But if I don't go to sleep, my voice is not going to make recovery by morning. So thank you all, and good night.